this building that we are sitting in, the program that we are running in the country under rural development, and the 73rd, 74th amendment that was piloted in this country for the first time, a watershed amendment, was piloted by his dad, Honorable then member and rural development minister, Shri G. Venkateswamy Garu. He is still a very active politician, involved in several of the, in his advisory capacity as an elder statesman, he still guides the destiny and polity of Andhra Pradesh state and the country. Dr. Vivekanand Garu, by training, is maybe a doctor, but then he has been doctoring his constituency, the people of the state, in checking out several reforms and also initiating several philanthropic initiatives from his side, where he's done constructions, where he's donated several lot of money for several issues of causes for people, created a trust. He's also an industrialist called the Vishaka Industries, on behalf of which he has created a trust which takes care of providing drinking water, assisting irrigation facilities for the agricultural communities, encourages education among the poorly and needy, etc. There's not an area that he has not touched. As a legislator, he has been actively debating with reference to the planning processes, with reference to the Right to Information Act, several of those issues. He's one of the very young and very active participants in the parliamentary processes in the country. Sir, we have with us distinguished parliamentarians, Mr. Dorji Gelchen, Mr. Funsho, the Director of the National Council, Honorable Member Gwen Wangdi, Honorable Member Leela Pradhan, Honorable Member Karma Wangchok, Honorable Member Durga Prasad Chatri, and civil servants as well as secretarial services with us, sir. So this is the batch that is with you, and this is the international program of the APAD, which we have started in collaboration with UN Women, UNDP Bhutan, and APAD are running this program. We had actually been there to also conduct a small TNA, training needs assessment, on the basis of which this was done, and so they are with us here, sir. Can I leave the floor to you, sir?
Professor Mr. R.S.N. Reddy Garu, parliamentarians from Bhutan, am I right?
Yes,
parliamentarians
yes,
from
yes,
Bhutan,
yes, yes.
And my dear friends. When Mr. R.S.N. Reddy rang me up and told me that you have to come and address the parliamentarians here, I was a little jittery because our parliament is in session. And now, considering that our Congress party and the UPA government numbers are in a little difficulty, I was wondering if there is a whip, whether I'll be able to come and attend this program. So I was a little reluctant to accept this invitation. But then when he said this can be in the later half of the day at 3:45, I immediately agreed. And suddenly I realized that I had a very important program in Delhi today. And actually I am fighting for a cause in my region, and an important meeting was being held in Delhi. But I said no, there is a commitment given to our colleague parliamentarians from Bhutan, and it will be a very interesting interactive session with them, because I'll also learn from what's happening in Bhutan and how you keep going about. And I said, let's do this. Suddenly a meeting with the Prime Minister cropped up. Still, we had to juggle around, but I'm glad I made it, although I'm late. And I want to first of all apologize for coming late to this program. And I'm surprised that a lot of parliamentarians and some of the executive members are here from Bhutan. But anyway, coming to the parliament and democracy in our country, as you all know, India has a very strong foundation of democracy. We have 4 pillars of strength in our country. One is the parliamentary form of democracy. Second is the executive. Third is the judiciary. And fourth is the press. So we have these 4 pillars which keep balancing each other to ensure that the freedom of the people, the freedom to express, and to ensure that processes which have been set long back, they are followed properly, and the country keeps moving forward. And actually, if you compare the democracies which have started around 1947, if you see, I think India is one of the prominent countries which have really done very well, considering the vastness of our country, considering the abject poverty which was there at that point of time in our country. I think we have done a great leap forward. In a hindsight, definitely we could have done much more, because during one of our visits to China last year, it was an inter-parliamentary visit to China, and when we were discussing with them, we were just comparing what is Chinese form of governance and Indian form of governance. And the Chinese Prime Minister, Chinese Minister, Ai Peng, he was telling, no, we are growing very well, we are a communist country, but the reforms processes and the other growth promoting schemes which we have in China are very easily implementable, and we have been showing a consistent GDP growth rate in our country. So I replied that I agree with you. You have been growing very well. Your GDP growth rates are the highest in the world consistently. You have an excellent foreign reserves in your country. But one thing you don't have in your country is democracy. Because that is the strength of India. We have democracy. The freedom to speak. I think this is one country where you can freely express your views, and nobody will come and question you for expressing your views. And I think this is the strength of this country. I know our growth rates are a little slower because of this, because the right to speak, the right to object, they are there, and people don't easily fall in line, because we are slowly getting educated now. Our literacy levels are growing higher, and once we become more matured, I think in the coming years, when our literacy rates really grow, Indian democracy will show far greater results than what we are growing. But actually, if you see the parliamentary form of democracy in our country, we have had 15 general elections held up till now. That means every time general election takes place, whoever wins the elections, they form the government here. And although in the initial years in our independence, Congress party was the single largest party, and there was no other opposition, a very minor opposition was there. But subsequently, in the last 20 years, we have been having a two-party system. I mean, one party winning and one party losing. There's an opportunity for the ruling party to get defeated, or the opportunity for the ruling party is also not coming into power by its own. It is forcibly having to get into alliances with other small parties, and it's the conglomerate of these parties which are actually governing the country. But every time an election is held, new results come, there's a change in government. But fortunately, the processes of democracy are so strong in this country, nobody can play around with the constitution. They all have to fall in line, and everybody respects that. That's the beauty of our form of governance, that everybody respects this, and we are able to quickly change over the processes. When an opposition comes into power, the ruling party respects that, and they quickly invite through the president to come and form the government. So the parliamentary democracy has been really a successful form of governance in this country. And although I'm a first-time member of parliament, as Professor Reddy has just spoken, my father has been a 7-time member of parliament. He was a union minister, and he has held several positions in governance. And I must say that the best portfolio he really enjoyed was when he was the Minister of Rural Development. And as he rightly said, he introduced several forms of actively involving people into the governance. Because even in rural development, another form, I mean, I'm just not only talking about parliament, but right from the grassroots levels, to increase more people to get into democratic form of elections, getting more women, because I think women is an issue in our country, getting the weaker sections to get into elections. During my father's time, these kind of amendments were made, and more opportunities for people to be part of the governance were brought in. So I'm happy that today I'm able to come here. And as I was telling you, the Indian democratic system of governance is one of the best, because what I have noticed in the last 3 years is there's a lot of respect for our opposition members. Yes, when the opposition's members have issues of concern for the people or concern for their parties, they do raise issues in the parliament. And I have seen whenever the debates take place on any issue, or if a new bill has to be introduced in the government, a lot of healthy discussions take place between the opposition and the ruling party. There are many suggestions which are given by the opposition parties, which are noted down, and until and unless there is a political point there or a political one-upmanship, the government also respects what are the good points, and they take note of these and again make amendments in the bill, so that what is best for the people of this country are actually enacted. And some of the important policy decisions also, and most of the policy decisions that are taken in this country, we have standing committees in the parliamentary form of democracy, where there are committees of 15 to 20 members in each committee, which is headed by an opposition leader. He heads this committee, and these committees are supposed to recommend to the government what kind of policy initiatives they have to do, what kind of changes in the policy that needs to be done, so that it doesn't become that only the ruling party has a role in saying this is the way this government should run, this is the way this policy should be there, and the opposition members are not involved in this process. So that's the healthy form of governance we have. The opposition members become chairman of these standing committees of parliament, and most of the recommendations for policy changes and new policy introductions are done by these standing committees. And another very healthy form of parliamentary democracy which takes place in our country is when a national issue comes up. For example, we have had 3 wars. This country faced 3 wars. During these times of crisis, the country is united. The parliament is united. The parliament ensures that the safety and the integrity of this country is always the highest priority. So we have a very vibrant parliament consisting of opposition and the ruling party members, and they stand by each other in terms of crisis the country faces. So that is another healthy form we have. Another great form of parliamentary democracy we have is all the decisions taken by the government, especially the economic decisions that are taken by the government. They are all scrutinized by the Computer Auditor General, that is the CAG. We have this institution which goes and sees whether the decisions taken by the ruling party, they are correct or not, and whether there has been some loss to the government, because any party which is in power can always misuse the majority they have in the parliament, and they can take decisions which go against the spirit of the country. So, or I won't say country, against the people of India. So here you have this Computer Auditor General, which actually is appointed by the government, no doubt, but here the opposition leader also is involved in the selection of the Computer Auditor General. That is one healthy practice. This parliamentary democracy is taking place. And you have seen, maybe sometimes the Computer Auditor General need not be right, but whenever issues are there, they are raised by the Computer Auditor General, and this is a very big check mechanism for our parliamentary form of democracy in taking economic decisions. So also a new processes have started in the parliamentary form of democracy because of the coalition governments we are forming repeatedly. Here, many of the decisions try to be on a consensus basis because there is no single party in governance. There is a coalition which is actually governing the country. So there has to be unanimity within the parties which are governing the country, where they have to come to agreements on what is good. So any issue, national issue which needs to be debated and passed bills in the parliament are first discussed amongst the partners of governance, and they also try to involve the opposition party wherever required. And in some of the crucial appointments, there is a safeguard in a parliamentary democracy that the government doesn't go and appoint people of their choice. Like the Chief Election Commissioner who conducts elections, his nomination also is supposed to be cleared by the government, by the Prime Minister, the leader of the opposition. They are members of this committee and they keep taking decisions which are to the benefit of the people of this country. So I feel that the Indian parliamentary democratic systems are very democratic. The processes are very meticulous in place, and whenever we feel, because of the 55 years of democratic time we have passed through, whenever changes are required in the constitution, some changes are definitely brought in so that they are to the current times of governance, and Parliament keeps moving forward. So friends, in a small conclusory remarks, I would strongly suggest that there has to be an inter-parliamentary delegations between Bhutan and India to learn more about our form of governance. I know you're a new country, a young country, so you also need to lay the processes, and I would strongly urge the members of Parliament of Bhutan that laying the foundations is the most important in this parliamentary democracy. Today we have several initiatives taken at that point of time which are still standing the test of time. So you have a great opportunity when you are building your country in this form. So there is a strong exchange of views that can take place between both these countries, and I'm sure we can also learn from some of the good practices you follow in Bhutan, and both the countries will benefit in the long run. Thank you, friends.
Sir, we have this practice in a